Hi, good afternoon, all, and bienvenue à tous. On behalf of Canadian Nuclear Laboratories and Atomic Energy of Canada Limited, I would like to welcome you to the Canadian Nuclear Research Initiative Health webinar. My name is Ryan Clark. I'm the Director of Corporate and Commercial Affairs here at CNL. I work closely with the commercial team, and it's a pleasure to be here today. My role is to just welcome you, introduce you. I know many of you probably know a little bit about CNL and its history, but I'd like to give you a little bit of background on who we are for those that don't know. I'm actually up in Chalk River, Ontario, which is the home of our large laboratories, the birthplace of Canadian nuclear industry, with a long history in isotope production for many generations, supplying medical isotopes for therapeutics and diagnostics around the world for many years. But in terms of who we are, a little bit of a focus. We are a national laboratory. We have over 55 unique labs, a 9,000-acre campus in this beautiful setting up in the Ottawa Valley on the Ottawa River, a diverse team of over 700 PhDs and researchers from across all scientific disciplines. And we do have other sites across Canada. But in terms of our structure, CNL is a little unique. We are a private sector company that manages a federal asset. The actual lab and grounds on which we work are owned by Atomic Energy of Canada Limited, a federal crown corporation. So we still do work on behalf of them, but also on behalf of the private sector. In terms of the main focuses of our work areas that we're undertaking, both on behalf of AECL and others, is restoring and protecting the environment. CNL is actually undertaking the largest environmental remediation in Canadian history of over 70 years of nuclear science, technology, experimentation at sites in Ontario, Quebec, Manitoba, and other locations. The other one, clean energy for today and tomorrow. Our S&T staff are working in areas that you've probably heard about, SMRs, also supporting the traditional CANDUs that operate in Ontario, New Brunswick, and several other countries around the world. We're working on advanced fuels and materials for a clean economy, which includes hydrogen sciences and others. And then the one that you're most interested, of course, is improving the health of Canadians, which you're here today to help us do and leverage through this program. In terms of our S&T directorates, the way we've done is set it up in this model where we have 5 main directorates. The first one is reactor fleet sustainability, which is a lot of the work we do for the existing CANDU fleets, which provide 60% of the clean energy here in Ontario. And then we also have the advanced reactors that is looking at new designs, including those small modular reactors, as I mentioned. We have a hydrogen and tritium technologies branch looking at both clean fuels, potentially for heavy transportation, tritium technologies that can be applied to fusion reactors. We have the isotope radiobiology environment, which my colleague Candace will get into in a moment. And then we have a safety and security division ensuring safeguards in the movements of nuclear material globally and ensuring that they're safe. And then in terms of the other side, other project offices, where things get a little bit bigger than just a small project, but a bigger program. We've created these 2 project offices, one for small modular reactors and the other one for an isotope production group looking at actinium-225, which you will also hear a little bit about. And with that, I hope I've positioned who we are and some of the other things we do, but I'll pass you off to my colleague Candace Didichuk to get you into the heart of this webinar. Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. And I'm just going to my screen. There we go. So thank you, Ryan. Thanks for the quick introduction, and good morning, or I guess good afternoon, everybody who's been able to attend and make it today. I'm Candace. I'm the manager of radiobiology and health and program manager of health in the research program here at CNL. So it's my pleasure to present to you today an overview of the Isotopes Radiobiology and Environment Directorate. I'm going to go over a bit of its structure, its key areas of research, and highlight some of its core facilities and capabilities on behalf of Marie-Claude Gregoire, who is our head of directorate. So I'll do that before I hand it over as well to George Baidu, the commercial director of health, who will give a bit more detail on the CNRI program, the health program specifically for you all. So the Isotopes Radiobiology and Environment Directorate, which I'll refer to as IRED through the course of the presentation, it's essentially made up of 3 branches: radiobiology and health, environment and waste technologies branch, as well as the biological R&D facility. So within these three, from an operational perspective, it composes or is comprised of our research scientists, technologists, expertise, as well as capabilities, our labs and facilities, all of which are applied and aligned to execute on two research programs within health. It's the health program, of course, and the environment program. Under these two programs, radiobiology and dosimetry, as well as isotope and medical applications, are two of the key focus areas. Radiobiology and dosimetry, capturing research in support of better understanding of low-dose radiation exposure, health effects and risk, and isotopes and medical applications consisting of R&D to support isotope production, targeted alpha therapy and other therapies as well, and therapeutic and diagnostic drug evaluation. From the environment program and its two key research areas, environmental stewardship, addressing research gaps to inform environmental risk assessments, and waste management, supporting environmental remediation management and industry. So just a little bit in addition, under these two programs, the research and the projects that are conducted are in alignment with CNL and AECL's priorities, and also consist of projects and research that are supported through a couple key funding opportunities and streams. So for example, we are supported by AECL's Federal Nuclear Science and Technology Work Plan, where we conduct a fair bit of research across the board in support of our federal stakeholders. So for example, in Health Canada, CNSC and CSA, for example. We are also conducting research in support of CNL in its internal lab-directed S&T program, which is a program that was established to facilitate in advancing a bit more in terms of innovative research within the area, commercialization, introducing key capabilities and facilities as well, and of course commercially. So, sorry to go back. So with that, the health mission is two-pronged to advance knowledge in low-dose radiation health effects and help mitigate health risk, and also provide safe and therapeutic options for cancer and other diseases. So these two areas of the health mission are aligned with CNL's overarching mission to maintain and improve the health of all Canadians. So to focus a little bit on the first stream of research, or the first focus area under the health program, the first being radiobiology and dosimetry. This is where we conduct research more to advise and provide data, information to support our federal agencies, as I mentioned, and perform research towards optimizing and developing new innovative ways to mitigate health risks of external or internal exposure to radiation. So as it applies to nuclear industry, for, let's say, our utilities, and from a nuclear energy worker perspective, but also within the medical industry and other forms of occupational exposure, including some of the work that we do for the CSA when we refer to space exploration and space travel. So this stream of the program is advancing knowledge in low dose as well as low dose rate radiation exposure and health effects. So included on the diagram that I've shown here to the right is just looking at some of the other research topic areas, cancer and non-cancer diseases following exposure, adaptive response, immune response, impacts to the microbiome, also research towards worker protection, including to the population. Looking at research surrounding eye-lens dosimetry in radiobiology, as well as establishing new cancer models, as well as organoid models as well. And then also included here, systems biology and AI, as well as adverse outcome pathways to disease. So it's just a snippet of some of the research areas within this stream. For medical applications and isotopes, it focuses to provide innovation for isotope production and services to industry. The program in this area performs research towards optimization of production routes of medical isotopes, increasing the safety and efficacy of radiopharmaceutical therapy, and also provides preclinical research and development services to grow the radiopharmaceutical therapy ecosystem. So for example, radiopharmaceutical development and testing, supporting pre-IND enabling studies, and also conducts research to provide innovative protocols to improve medical treatment. So leveraging some of our other capabilities and expertise as well that we have here. The isotopes and medical applications stream or section truthfully leverages from expertise across the entire health program, as well as other programs across other directorates here at CNL. Outlined here are some of the areas of expertise, but also lends to discussions in terms of when we get a little bit later in the session, some opportunities and to shed some light on some other things that we could potentially be supporting and have as opportunities. So low dose radiation expertise, this is one of our core areas here at CNL and within the health program that's been around for decades. And leveraging that expertise to optimize therapies. So thinking of concepts pertaining to stem cell preservation. We have research undergoing right now investigating off-target effects of targeted alpha therapy towards acute myeloid leukemia, looking at the effects to hematopoietic stem cells, for example. Recognizing that they too express considerably similar to some of the other targets that are being honed in on. We also think of examples about immune checkpoint or immune system activation, LDR effects, as well as bystander effects in radiopharmaceutical therapy, and also research in the area of vascular microdosimetry, where radiobiology and that expertise could certainly be valuable. Preclinical research and development services for radiopharmaceutical therapy development, radiochemistry, specifically method and formulation development and optimization, radiolabeling, dose delivery systems, as well as in vitro and in vivo evaluation. So for example, the performing of efficacy studies, max tolerated dose studies, BioD, and leveraging some of our facilities. I'll refer to our biological research facility in just a moment, but both GLP and non-GLP possibilities as well. R&D to scale up emerging isotope production, so starting basically from benchtop onward, expertise in dissolution, chemistry, isotope separation, and purification, recycling process optimization, and currently in progress, for example, production of early phase radionuclides. So high purity radionuclide production optimization as we're doing right now with actinium. So moving on from here, I'm going to highlight just some of our facilities and capabilities. And just to note, this is more of a high-level overview. So for the sake of time, but certainly both myself and my colleague George later would be happy to provide any further information on both services, instrumentation, and capabilities. So just reach out at any point to the emails that I'll also share at the end. But the biological research facility, which a little picture here showing one of our animal rooms, is an SPF facility, so a specific pathogen-free facility on site here at CNL. It can support 20 to 30,000 animals at one point. We do work right now with mice and with rats. It's governed by the CCAC, which is the Canadian Council for Animal Care, and is home to and operated by 2 veterinarians, as well as a core animal care team of veterinary technologists specialized in a lot of the techniques that would be required or needed. Also within the facility, we have a suite of radiological labs as well as biological safety level 2 laboratories to support the research being done. And it's also unique in that it's attached to a gamma radiation hall. This is a class 2 nuclear facility. So shown here in this picture is the inside of that facility. So at the end of the hall, at one end, we see 2 irradiators, both consisting of carousels of cobalt-60 and cesium-137 sources. And it's actually quite long. It extends down into basically a hill. It's almost like a bunker. And depending on the distance of the animals to the source, we can apply different dose and dose rates to those animals or tissues or samples. The facility is also GLP recognized, and we've also been working hard and have established a Canadian low-dose radiation tissue bank. So leveraging upon some of our longer-term lifespan studies that we're able to conduct within the facility to use these tissues perhaps to expand upon some of the research we're conducting, but also opportunities for others external within the field to be able to access these quite precious tissues, to be honest. So also within the facility, we have a walk-in radon inhalation chamber. This chamber allows to support cohorts of animals for exposure to radon. So, for example, some work that we'll be performing in collaboration with Health Canada and others across Canada, looking at the effect of radon, for example, in our homes with other factors included, such as cigarette smoke and so on, for the onset of disease and so on. Also within the facility, I wanted to highlight both the opportunity for internal exposure to alpha and beta radionuclides, simply because we're a bit unique compared to some other CROs and animal facilities in terms of the levels and quantities of the radionuclides we can work with and radiotoxicities, both from a handling perspective and storage. So the history of the research conducted within the facility, you can imagine being sited on a nuclear facility, working a lot with long-lived radionuclides, actinides from fuel, and so on. So we have a fair bit of flexibility within the facility. We also have, I can show here, it's stuck. Go. We're working to advance our 2D and 3D cell culture and human organoid platform, also within the facility with dedicated labs for this purpose. With radiopharmaceutical sciences, we do have a suite of radiochemistry and chemistry labs with the supporting equipment, instrumentation, analytical equipment as well, and also home for actinium-225 production, which I'll elaborate on in just a few minutes. And also the research we conduct for drug formulation development and testing, and also preclinical services. Highlighted here, we do have an imaging suite. It's also located within the animal facility as well. Here is the Vector 6 MyLabs PET Spec CT scanner. We have also acquired for this instrument the optical module, which will allow us to expand the capabilities that we can do with the instrument, which we just onboarded about a year ago. So actinium production at CNL actually began just a little bit more than 6 years ago. It was under the health program, but definitely demonstrates a lot in terms of our capability and what we have here to support this type of production, and where we started and where we're at now. So as a feasibility project is where it began to evaluate first potential source material from our CNL waste program, and gaining access to that legacy waste to be able to acquire thorium-229, establish the chemistries, extract out the material we need to create the generator. So that's now been established. We've been producing about 100 millicuries of high purity actinium-225 annually for a number of years. And it continues to be used for radiopharmaceuticals in clinical trials since 2020. Not direct in human use from our source, but down the line. And then we distribute as well actinium-225 commercially as a commercial supply. We support in-house R&D, collaborative opportunities with the material as well, and of course to advance efforts towards radiopharmaceutical development and targeted alpha therapy. But as we know, the current supply of actinium is definitely not sufficient to feed into the clinical study demand and for drug candidate evaluation. So in understanding the global need and demand, actinium is leading an initiative towards, or CNL, sorry, is leading the initiative towards scale-up production, looking at cyclotron production routes of actinium. So within the health program, as well as other programs and research teams across CNL, we're working collaboratively together, advancing towards target development, centralizing on radium-226 from legacy waste materials. So for example, medical waste materials, brachytherapy needles, and processing chemistries, purification methods for creation of these targets. So following irradiation, CNL is performing the research now to establish the purification methods to provide a pure actinium product, eventually to be distributed and used for end-of-line radiopharmaceutical prep. And of course, recognizing that radium-226 is also of high commodity and scarcity, looking at recycling and reprocessing as well as the targets post-bombardment. So thinking of innovative solutions for medical isotope production in radiopharmaceutical therapy, I wanted to highlight here that our research teams and our projects are highly interdisciplinary. They're very collaborative and use CNL's broad experience in the core areas, physics, engineering, chemistry, biology that I've highlighted here, but it allows us to tap into existing highly pointed expertise, our capabilities, our facilities, our shielded equipment, our shielded facilities as well, to deliver on a range of R&D initiatives. So as we've demonstrated in the past, as we have with actinium, and then those that are coming through the door now as we move forward. So this leads us to the Canadian Nuclear Research Initiative for Health. So before I hand it over to George, I just wanted to highlight that the health program and the health initiatives here at CNL, our goal is to accelerate the optimization of therapeutic isotopes for production, not just for actinium, but for other radionuclides as well, and support the clinical translation of targeted radiopharmaceuticals for the benefit of Canadians. So with that, I'm going to end my slides here and pass it over to George Baidu, and he'll give you a more in-depth look of the CNRI, the Canadian Nuclear Research Initiative Health Program. So George, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so over the next few minutes, like I mentioned, I hope at the end of the presentation, you'll be able to see or identify where and if, how the CNRI program can fit into your unique research needs or situation. And of course, in addition to that, also understand, what the process for application and what it takes to make a good CNRI application. With that being said, my name is George Baidu, and I'm the Technical Director for Health here at the CNL. Like my colleagues have mentioned earlier, one of CNL's strategic priorities is to contribute to the health of Canadians. The CNRI, as you may have read, for those of us who have looked at the calls for proposals already, is one of the tools or initiatives that CNL has developed here to help CNL essentially achieve or reach the strategic goal of contributing to the health of Canadians. And this we want to uniquely do by, sort of accelerating the development of radiopharmaceuticals and the development of radiopharmaceuticals, as it were, again, for the benefit of Canadians. Now, the question is, what is CNRI? CNRI is the Canadian Nuclear Research Initiative for Health. There are a few unique things about CNRI. First of all, it's a funding. However, this is one of those funds where it is not just, say, maybe cash, but this is, you can view this as sort of a turnkey solution that integrates both funding and project execution and project management, all in one pot and in one location. Also, the CNRI program, also gives you access to the unique capabilities, present here at CNL, from our experience, our legacy, our people, our facilities, and our equipment. I will not go into details, the focus areas. I think my colleague Candice has mentioned that, but I think in a later slide, I'll still look at that quite briefly, I mean, just for the sake of emphasis. As you know also, with respect to the deliverables and IP on the CNRI program, CNL does not intend to share in the deliverable IP. However, CNL expects to have access to the incidental IP to use for its own internal use and for commercial purposes, as the case may be. And in terms of the target audience, we're looking here again at, companies or institutions that are focused, in the radiopharmaceutical space. And especially where we're looking at lower TRL work, TRL meaning technology readiness levels, in this particular case. So in summary, you can look at the CNRI program as a program we've put together essentially to help, de-risk, sort of lower TRL work, to accelerate and to advance, work in the radiopharmaceutical space. And lastly, in terms of the spirit of how it works, it is, essentially is a very collaborative spirit in nature. You can reach, you can easily communicate, there is, sharing of information, however, within a very protected and respectful environment. That being said, I might wonder, what are the elements of what we'll probably call a strong CNRI application? I think one of the first things is there has to be alignment with at least one of the focus areas in the calls for proposals. That being said, you can have, multiple areas that falls within the focus areas, that is fine. The application must be able to demonstrate as well that this is able to create value, for CNL, and also able to show or demonstrate that, this can provide benefits for Canadians. Now, it doesn't have to be, in terms of benefit for Canadians, this doesn't have to be immediately after the project. It can be in the short term. It can be also in the long term. But we should be able to sort of establish that nexus between, what this project intends to achieve and how this, benefits Canadians. And also, this has to include at least one industry partner. And I think this is especially more relevant for, say, non-private entities, public entities and other kind of entities. We expect that at least you should be putting a project together with at least one private entity. Usually we would expect that these are projects that should be within a 24-month time frame. We should be able to complete this within 24 months and executable with CNL resources. And I think on this point, one might ask as well, how do we know what's possible here? And I think that was partly why we had to get my colleague Candice, who I think did a pretty good job at putting us through what we are able to do here at CNL in terms of our capabilities, facilities, and people and all. However, if you still have questions and you want to understand more what our capabilities are and what resources we have available, please feel free and do not hesitate to do that. And of course, I think as with every application, there has to be, clarity within the application, and simple language, succinct, and clear to the point. I know Candice had mentioned these focus areas before, but just for the sake of emphasis, I will just quickly run through them. Again, it's, so you can see here, radiochemistry for radiopharmaceutical therapy, and then improving radiopharmaceutical toxicology. And then the third area is accelerating clinical translation. In terms of the format of the application, there are no specific templates that you have to follow. However, I think these are broad requirements that I think every application needs to show. We don't expect this to be more than an 8-page application, and it should have about 5 sections. An abstract, that is plain and, written in plain language and suitable for media release. And, the abstract should include, a description of the project, the target outcomes, and the benefits for CNL and Canada, in 200 words. Again, however, whatever format you want to put the application, it has to also demonstrate in 1 page, not more, sort of the alignment between, project and any of the focus areas. And like I mentioned before, it could fit into 1 or more, multiple focus areas. Now, also, it should also be able to demonstrate, in terms of impact, what problem this project, intends to address, and how, this will progress radiopharmaceutical development for the benefit of Canada. We expect also, of course, to put the project scope, but we do not expect that again to be, sort of more than 5 pages. And, some of the specifics that we would want to see, amongst other things, within the project scope, we want to see the specific goals and deliverables, including timelines. We also want to see the applicant's project teams, and also describe, sort of what the working arrangements will be with CNL, who does what, when, and how. And of course, also facilities and capabilities and expertise required to complete the work. Finally, we expect that you are able to provide sort of an approximate budget for the project. And then if there are any other sort of third-party alliances or contributors to the project, it would be great to also outline those and identify any monetary or, value, or, any other in-kind contributions or benefits that you may be connected with in the course of the project. Now, in terms of timelines, the calls for proposals are already out. It was open since the 29th of January 2024. The deadline, the last day for submission, will be 12 p.m. Eastern Time on the 11th of March 2024. After that, we'll basically collate all the proposals we have. We'll review and select proposals and proceed to negotiations. And when I mean negotiations here, it's usually reaching out to the potential awardees, and if there are things to fine-tune, if there are questions to ask, if there are issues to be clarified relating to the proposals, all will be done within this period up until March the 25th, 2024. And then the final review and signing of agreements, we expect that this will happen through April and May. And then we expect to, announce, post-signing the successful agreements, and, work should begin almost immediately, let's say from 31st of May, but, per the policies we have around CNRI, I think we have, work has to begin within 30 days. And I'll say, the next CNRI call would be January of 2025. And that being said, just a few aspects of the terms and conditions, the detailed terms and conditions, however, we can find in the Appendix 6 of the call, but just picked out a few ones that we think might be relevant for the purpose of this webinar, and just to understand the spirit of the terms and conditions. Now, the CNRI terms and conditions are drafted, in consideration of the fact that this is work that is subsidized by CNL and the Canadian government. And as such, the terms really should be taken as is, rather than sort of a starting point for negotiations. So it will be great to read them carefully. We may be able to accommodate changes we consider minor if they, if those changes are required to reflect certain unique and particular aspects of the program of work. However, CNL will not consider any major changes to the terms for this program. Also, I think I did mention this before, but again, just for the sake of emphasis, CNL does not intend to share in the ownership of R&D deliverables under the CNRI program. However, CNL does expect to be able to make use of incidental IP and knowledge gained during the performance of the work, including for commercial purposes. CNL and the government of Canada are subsidizing this work, and so, may not be taking on any additional liability. And as such, CNL expects, again, to be fully indemnified from any risks associated with the use of any deliverables produced under this program. Lastly, of course not least, CNL will provide work and CNL assets on a subsidized basis. However, as a general rule, we will not be subsidizing the use of subcontractors or third-party assets. I'm sure, as you understand, the CNRI fund is it's a matching fund. I'm not sure I remember to say that at the beginning of the presentation. Well, on a general level, we are able to match, I think, up to 50%, I think, as the maximum. For any project that eventually we end up selecting. And this is matching fund that we provided in kind, and so we'll not be providing cash to any of the applicants. That being said, I think that's the last slide. And thank you very much for listening. We'll be going to proceed into the next session, but I think, like my colleague Candice did say, if you have any questions or comments to make or any need for clarification, we'll be happy to take them during the Q&A session. The next session we'll be having Vijay. Vijay is the director for R&D with Jubilant Radiopharmaceuticals. Jubilant is a radiopharmaceutical company and one of the, not just one of the first awardee of the CNRI program when we started in its first iteration 3 years ago. And we will be giving them an opportunity to, again, share with us, what their experience has been like, with the CNRI initiative. And then, of course, again, from that session, if there are questions we want to ask, let's feel free. So let's say over to Vijay.
Thank you, George. Yeah, my name is Vijay Raj. I lead the new product development team here in Jubilant Radiopharma Montreal R&D. We have the R&D and manufacturing location in Montreal, here in Kirkland. Jubilant Radiopharma is probably in Canada is the largest manufacturer of call kits and radiopharmaceutical products. And in US, combined with the Jubilant Radiopharmacy, Jubilant is number 2 in the distribution of radiopharmaceutical products after Cardinal. So we here in Montreal, we develop call kits, basically used for SPECT imaging applications. We also have a couple of call kit PET programs. We also manufacture iodine-based therapy products, and we work on other isotopes like lutetium, iodine-123, all these isotopes. The only isotopes which we cannot handle currently is actinium-225. And then, every company is looking for either lutetium or actinium for the therapy applications. So we had this idea of starting an actinium program, and then we happened to see this CNRI-H program announcement regarding the funding for the Canadian Nuclear Research Initiative Health Program. So we happened to submit an application. George, we have been working with George, Candice to draft this proposal and then the contract and everything. So when George was explaining this process, like we have already undergone this process. So I think it was easy. Only issue was with respect to some IP agreements, but we have strong IP team here, IP and legal team here, also with CNL, and they were able to negotiate and then finally draft the proposal. So we started the project. So we are very happy. Just in the last January, we completed the first feasibility project. It was a small molecule peptide labeled with actinium. So our project was basically a feasibility project, and we wanted to label this small peptide with actinium, with the actinium from CNL, and the project has been completed successfully on time. So many thanks to George, Candice for their project management or project director role and the professionalism they have shown to complete the project on time. And also Dr. Svetlana, Randy, Chris, Dennis, and from our side, Apmel and Maria, they traveled also. We traveled a couple of times, but Maria and Apmel were the technical people involved in this project. So thanks to everyone for the successful completion of this feasibility, especially Randy, right? Initially, when we started this project, there were a lot of challenges, especially related to buffer, the ratio between peptide and the actinium, the pH, but it was like constant work towards optimizing this, both using the synthesizer as well as the manual process. And finally, the team could achieve 99% radiochemical yield and purity with very good stability, in-use stability. So the good thing is that the stability was also tested, in-use stability. It was as expected, and then the serum stability and serum stability was tested, and it was observed that actually stability in human serum was better than the mouse serum. So this is a great achievement, and now we are in a stage actually to present this feasibility with our board and then seek for next step. So that report was also submitted on time. Currently, we are just closing the report, but it's all done very professionally. So many thanks. And I have Apmel also with me here actually, so he can also share. And one more point, I just want to note that the CNL actinium quality, right? We understood that the current generated thorium-227 229 generated technology, what they are using, does not yield actinium-227 impurity, and the metal impurity level is also very low. So I think that's a huge advantage also to use their actinium for any research work, and it's our feedback on this actinium itself. Apmel, you want to share something?
Yeah, hi, here Apmel. I'm a radiochemist. So I've been working with Didi, Chris, Denise, Svetlana, Randy. So I would like to add to what Vijay just said, that it's been a pleasure, and it's been very easy to work with the team, because I know timelines are very important, which were met for this project, just like Vijay said. But there's another part that is teamwork. So working with CNS has been it's been a pleasure, because they're very knowledgeable, they're very collaborative, and at the same time, it's very easy. So from each time we have a meeting, the discussion is very open, they're very respectful. The minutes after the meeting, the planning for the next activities is very well detailed. The discussions after each experiment it's been very nicely performed. Also, we visited there like 2-3 times. They were very welcoming. So, like I said, it's been a pleasure. We're looking forward to keep working with them. So it's very big, shout out for the team out there.
Yeah. For us, the greatest advantage is it's within Canada. We can travel, and also the advantage is now they are putting up the animal imaging facility. There's an animal house there. So even for this collaboration, right? This is a small project we did. I don't think it's a big project. Probably quite easy to do the labeling. There's a lot of literature available, but this will lead into more projects in future. We have a lot of POC programs, and like other companies, we are also actively targeting lutetium and actinium based therapy molecules. That's a company ambition. So we will be working with CNL also in future for more and more projects. But this project really helped us to get a feeling, as Apmal mentioned, the teamwork, and then how easily we can work together. All these things we have accomplished during the execution of this project. And the main, as I mentioned, the main hurdle, contracting, always it's very difficult actually to have a good contract between a company and a company and more like an academic organization. I know CNL is not exactly like a academic organization, but it is part of a government organization. So that was like initially it took a little bit time, but now it's easy for us. Now it's already been done, so it's quite easy.
Yes, thanks, Vijay, and thanks Apmal as well for that interesting summary of your work and your project with us so far. If you don't mind, I probably just threw a question or two at you. I know you've you've mostly covered most of the issues I probably would have brought. If you were to, for example, if you had a word of advice for current applicants, or those who want to apply for the CNRI program this year, if you had one thing to say, what would it be? Towards a successful application. I mean, looking back at your experience and all.
I think what I understood is that the technical part, right? It should be a very clearly written objective and also a scope of work. What is the scope of work? In our case, also, we had a clear scope and we tried to stay within the scope. And in the end, like, all the milestones we have put in the scope of work, everything was established. So I think clear background about the project, and then the milestones are clearly defined in the scope of work. And then this negotiation about the IP, that actually I think you have to leave to the legal and the IP team, right? Technically, we can suggest anything, but in the legal terms, they are the people who have to take decision. That I think that involvement we have to do very well from the technical resource side, like something which we cannot handle. Other than that, I don't think any other things I have in my mind. These are the 3 points I have in my mind.
Okay, awesome. I mean, from what I hear you saying, you'll be happy to do this all over again if you had the opportunity. Yeah. All right. So I think that will be all from my side in terms of asking questions. Alison, I don't know if we can go over to the question and answer sessions. If we have any questions yet. I think
if
now
anyone, yeah, sorry, George. If anyone does have any questions, just a reminder, there is a Q&A function at the top of your screen, and you're more than welcome to add a question into that area, and we're more than happy to address. George, perhaps you want to maybe go to some of the commonly asked questions you sometimes get as we're just waiting to see if anyone does have any question to include.
Yeah, sure. While I know one of the questions we see commonly is people ask whether this is sort of organization related or it's project related, as to whether a company can submit or an entity can submit more than one application or the other. And I think, again, what mentioned earlier, this is more or less project specific. So again, the CNRI program is project specific. So chances are that you can have, if you have more than 1 or 2 projects, like we said, or multiple that fall within the focus areas. Again, don't be shy. Feel free to throw in your applications. Again, I think one other question we get commonly also has to do with how the matching fund works. Again, I think like we mentioned earlier, it's a matching fund. We usually will not give out cash, so it's a matching fund which will provide sort of in kind. And so for, you know, subcontracted work, we usually will not match that. We will not, so basically it's only work that can be done here at CNL. And maybe one other question I know we get quite often too is people ask if within, whilst the call is open, if they are able to reach out to, you know, understand a bit more, you know, what our resources are like, what our capabilities are. Because, you know, you are putting a proposal together and you want to be sure that, you know, your proposal, you know, is able to leverage the resources we have at CNL. Because, you know, one of the success factors here, putting a good application is, you know, this has to be work that can be done here essentially, right? So again, I think the answer to that is you can reach out at any time. You want to find out more information about what we are able to do, you know, our capabilities, our facilities, our people, you know, yeah, feel free to reach out, and you know, we're more than happy to oblige you with an answer. Yeah, I think those are some of the commonly asked questions that I think I was taking 3 of them. I don't know, do we have any questions still yet?
George, you must have answered everyone's questions today. So great job. Yeah, there's no further questions right now.
Yeah, so if no further questions, I guess I'll just say the call is still open. It's open up to 12 noon on the 11th of March. We'll be looking forward to, you know, having your proposals. And then maybe one other thing we didn't say, you know, this is one program that is not essentially limited so much in terms of, hey, look, there's a maximum amount. Look, just so long as the scope falls within our focus areas, please, we're more than happy to receive your applications. Yeah, that being said, I'd like to use this opportunity to thank everyone who's made this webinar event, you know, from my colleagues on this side, from Ryan to Candice, and to Allison, who's worked on the back end to make sure everything works, Svetlana, Mega, and then of course Vijay and Abmel. Vijay, I know you had to push things around to to get in here. We do appreciate that. Also, for the audience, thank you for hanging out with us today. And I hope to see your application. We look forward to having your application, and thank you.